Army officer returns home to a heartbreaking betrayal. What he found will shock you. The rain catches in his dark hair as Major Adil Khan steps onto the platform, his duffel bag heavy on his shoulder. 11 months. 11 months since he last breathed the sweet, jasmine-scented air of home. The train station buzzes with life around him, but everything feels distant, muffled, like watching the world through glass. His fingers find the small velvet box in his pocket. The engagement ring he never got to give Sarah before his deployment. Tonight, he tells himself. Tonight changes everything. The taxi winds through familiar streets, and his heart pounds harder with each passing block. He hasn't told her he's coming home early. The surprise will be worth it. The look in her dark eyes when she sees him, the way she'll melt into his arms like she always does. "Here we are, sir," the driver says, pulling up to the modest two-story house with the red door Sarah insisted on painting last spring. Their home. Their beginning. Adil pays the fare with trembling hands. When did his hands start shaking? He's faced enemy fire without flinching, led men through impossible missions, but standing before his own front door, he feels like a boy on his first date. The key slides into the lock with a soft click. He pushes the door open slowly, savoring the moment. The scent hits him immediately. Sarah's favorite lavender candles, the lingering aroma of her morning tea. Home. Sarah? His voice carries through the quiet hallway. No answer. He sets down his bag carefully, not wanting to wake her. If she's sleeping, the living room looks exactly as he left it. Her medical textbooks scattered across the coffee table, the throw blanket she always wraps herself in while studying draped over the couch. She's been working so hard to finish her residency. Pride swells in his chest. His brilliant, dedicated Sarah. Light spills from beneath their bedroom door. She's awake. His pulse quickens as he climbs the stairs, each step deliberate and quiet. He can picture her, probably reading in bed, her long black hair falling like silk over her shoulders, wearing that oversized sweater that makes her look impossibly small and beautiful. He reaches for the door handle. Laughter drifts through the wood. Sarah's laughter, but different somehow, breathless, intimate. His hand freezes on the brass handle. Something cold settles in his stomach. More laughter, and then a man's voice, deep, unfamiliar. The world tilts. Adil's training kicks in, the same hyper-awareness that kept him alive overseas. Every sound becomes magnified, the creak of their bed. Sarah's soft gasp. Words he can't quite make out but understands with brutal clarity. His hand turns the handle before his mind can stop it. The door swings open in slow motion. The scene before him burns itself into his retinas with surgical precision. Sarah, his Sarah, tangled in sheets with a stranger. Her eyes wide with shock, her lips swollen. Her hair wild in a way that used to be his alone. The man scrambles for his clothes. Adil doesn't even look at him. His gaze is locked on Sarah's face, watching as shock transforms to guilt, then to something that looks almost like relief. Adil. Her voice breaks on his name. I didn't know you were coming home? The words taste like ash. To my own house? The stranger pushes past him, muttering apologies that Adil doesn't hear. The front door slams. They're alone now. He and the woman he planned to propose to tonight. Sarah wraps the sheet around herself, and even in his devastation, some part of him notices how beautiful she still is. How cruel that is. How long? His voice sounds strange. To his own ears. Distant. Professional. She looks down. Adil, please. How long, Sarah? 3 months. The whisper hits him harder than any enemy fire ever did. 3 months. While he was counting days until he could hold her again, she was this. The engagement ring burns in his pocket. He pulls it out, sets it gently on the dresser, the same dresser where her picture sits, the one he carried through every mission. "I was going to ask you to marry me tonight," he says quietly. Sarah's sob fills the silence. "Adil, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I was lonely, and he was there, and I don't." The single word stops her. Just don't. He turns toward the door, then pauses. When he looks back at her, his eyes hold an emotion she's never seen before. Not anger, something deeper, more final. "I loved you enough to carry your photograph through hell," he says. "I just wish you'd loved me enough to wait." The door closes behind him with the softest click. Outside, it's still raining. 3 weeks later, Adil sits alone at the corner table of Cafe Luna, the same place where he and Sarah had their first date 4 years ago. He's not sure why he came here. Maybe because familiar places feel safer when everything else has shifted beneath his feet. The divorce papers are signed. Sarah didn't contest anything. She'd moved out the day after he found them together, leaving only a letter he still hasn't read. "Is this seat taken?" The voice is warm honey over velvet, with just a hint of an accent he can't place. Adil looks up to find a woman standing beside his table, coffee cup in hand, rain droplets still clinging to her dark hair. She's stunning in an understated way, the kind of beauty that sneaks up on you. High cheekbones, eyes the color of aged whiskey, and a mouth that suggests she knows secrets worth keeping. "It's all yours," he says, gesturing to the empty chair. She sits gracefully, and he catches a hint of her perfume, something exotic and warm, like cinnamon and amber, nothing like Sarah's light floral scent. The contrast is jarring and somehow relieving. "You look like a man with a story," she says, studying his face with unsettling directness. "Don't we all?" "True. But yours is written in your shoulders." She tilts her head. "Military?" He nods. "Major Adil Khan, recently returned from deployment." He doesn't mention the recently divorced part, Dr. Zara Malik. She extends her hand, and when he takes it, her skin is surprisingly soft. "Emergency medicine. I know that particular brand of tension you're carrying." Her touch lingers a moment longer than necessary. When she finally releases his hand, he feels the absence of her warmth. "Long hours saving lives?" he asks. "Something like that." Her smile is enigmatic. "What about you? What brings a decorated officer to a quiet cafe on a Tuesday afternoon?" The question hangs between them. He could give her the standard response, just needed coffee, wanted to get out of the house. Instead, he finds himself saying, "I'm trying to remember who I am when I'm not in uniform." And who is that? "I'm still figuring it out." She leans forward slightly, and the movement draws his attention to the graceful line of her neck, the way the cafe's warm light plays across her skin. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find something better. There's something in her tone that suggests she speaks from experience. Before he can ask, she's standing. "I have to get back to the hospital," she says, but she doesn't move away from the table. Instead, she reaches into her purse and pulls out a business card. "But if you ever want to continue this conversation..." She slides the card across the table, her fingers brushing his briefly. The contact sends an unexpected jolt of electricity up his arm. "Dr. Zara Malik, Emergency Medicine," he reads aloud. "Mercy General Hospital. The trauma bay keeps me busy, but I'm usually free after 10. She pauses, her whiskey eyes holding his. "If you're interested in exploring that question about who you are when you're not being a soldier." Before he can respond, she's walking away, her hips swaying slightly in a way that's confident without being obvious. At the door, she turns back. "By the way," she calls out, loud enough for him to hear but soft enough that it feels intimate. "Sarah was an idiot." The door chimes as she leaves, and Adil stares after her, the business card warm between his fingers. How did she... He looks down and realizes he's still wearing his wedding ring. Was wearing. His finger feels naked without it, but also lighter. That evening, he finds himself driving past Mercy General. The hospital looms against the night sky, its windows glowing like scattered stars. He doesn't go in, but he sits in the parking lot for nearly an hour, turning Zara's card over in his hands. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Coffee tomorrow? Same time? Same place. I promise not to psychoanalyze your shoulders again. Much. Z. He stares at the message. When was the last time someone flirted with him? When was the last time he felt that flutter of anticipation in his chest? His thumbs hover over the keyboard. He could ignore it. Go home to his empty house and his empty bed, and pretend that the warmth in Zara's eyes hadn't made him feel more alive in 5 minutes than he'd felt in months. Instead, he types, "Only if you'd tell me how you knew about Sarah." Her response comes almost immediately. I'm very good at reading people. It's a survival skill in my line of work. See you tomorrow, Major. He drives home with the radio turned up loud, and for the first time in weeks, he's not thinking about betrayal or broken promises. He's thinking about whiskey eyes and the way his name sounded in her voice. The second coffee meeting becomes a third. The third becomes dinner at a small Italian place where Zara laughs at his stories about military life abroad, and he finds himself captivated by the way she talks about her work, the passion that lights up her face when she describes saving lives. 2 weeks pass like this. Careful conversations, lingering glances, the slow, delicious burn of attraction neither of them acknowledges directly. Tonight, she's invited him to her apartment to cook dinner together. I make a mean biryani, she'd said, but I could use an extra pair of hands. Her apartment is a study in controlled chaos, medical journals scattered across surfaces, but everything somehow perfectly arranged. The walls are covered with photographs from her travels, and the scent of cardamom and rose water fills the air. Wine? She offers, already pouring 2 glasses of red. I don't drink much anymore. The admission surprises him. He hasn't told anyone about the sleepless nights, the way alcohol only made the images in his head more vivid. Zara sets down the bottle without question, fills his glass with sparkling water instead. She doesn't ask why, doesn't push. The simple acceptance of his boundary does something strange to his chest. So, she says, moving to the kitchen counter where ingredients wait in small bowls. Ready to learn the Malik family secret? He joins, her at the counter, hyper-aware of the small space between them. She's changed out of her hospital scrubs into a soft sweater that clings to her curves, and her hair falls loose around her shoulders. First step, she says, taking his hands in hers, is to feel the spices. She guides his palms over the small bowls, cumin, coriander, cardamom. Her hands are warm over his, her body close enough that he can feel her heat. Close your eyes, she whispers. He does, and the world narrows to sensation. Her fingers tracing circles on his palms as she sprinkles spices onto his skin. The whisper of her breath against his neck as she leans closer. Now taste. His eyes open to find her watching him with an intensity that makes his pulse quicken. She lifts his hand to her mouth, her tongue flicking out to taste the spice from his palm. The contact is electric, brief, but enough to send fire racing through his veins. Your turn, she breathes, offering her own palm dusted with cinnamon. He hesitates for just a moment, then brings her hand to his mouth. Her skin is soft and warm, the cinnamon sweet on his tongue. She makes a small sound, almost a gasp, and the vulnerable little noise nearly undoes him. Zara. Her name is a question and a prayer. She doesn't step away. Instead, she moves closer until they're breathing the same air. Her free hand comes up to rest against his chest, right over his heart. I can feel it racing, she murmurs. You're dangerous, he says, but he doesn't move away either. Am I? Her voice is teasing, but her eyes are serious. Or am I exactly what you need? The question hangs between them, heavy with possibility. His hands settle on her waist, and she fits against him like she was designed for this moment. I'm not good at this anymore, he admits. At trusting, at letting people close. I know. Her hand slides up to cup his cheek, thumb brushing over his jawline. I can see it in your eyes, the walls you've built. And you think you can tear them down? No. Her honesty surprises him. But I think you might let me walk through the door if I ask nicely. The metaphor makes him smile despite himself. Is that what you're doing? Asking nicely? I'm asking you to let me in, Adil. Not all the way. Not tonight. But a little. Just enough to see if this is real. Her vulnerability undoes him. This strong, brilliant woman who saves lives for a living, asking him to take a chance on something. Fragile and new. He leans down slowly, giving her time to change her mind. She doesn't. Their lips meet in a kiss that's soft at first, tentative, then deeper, hungrier, as weeks of careful restraint finally give way. She tastes like cinnamon and promise. Her hands fist in his shirt, pulling him closer, and he responds by lifting her onto the counter, stepping between her thighs. Adil, she gasps against his mouth, and his name on her lips is the most beautiful sound he's ever heard. His phone buzzes loudly against the counter. They break apart, both breathing hard. The display shows Sarah's name. The spell breaks. Zara sees it immediately, the way his face shutters, the walls slamming back into place. You should answer it, she says quietly, sliding down from the counter. No, I shouldn't. But the damage is done. The moment is fractured. She's still in your head, Zara observes, not accusingly, just sadly. I'm sorry. I thought I was ready for this, but healing isn't linear. She touches his face gently. I know that better than most. The phone stops ringing. The silence stretches between them. I should go, he says finally. Should you? Or do you just think you should? The question follows him all the way home. For 3 days, Adil doesn't contact Zara. He throws himself into job interviews, apartment hunting, anything to keep his mind occupied. But at night, alone in the house that no longer feels like home, her question haunts him. Should you? Or, do you just think you should? On Thursday evening, his phone rings. Not Sarah this time, Zara. There's been an accident, she says without preamble. Multi-car collision on Highway 90. I need all hands. Are you free? I'm not medical personnel. You're trained in crisis management and emergency response. I need someone I trust. Her voice is professional, but he can hear the underlying urgency. Please, Adil. 20 minutes later, he's at Mercy General, following Zara through corridors that smell of antiseptic and adrenaline. She moves with purpose, her earlier softness, replaced by surgical precision. 7 casualties, she explains as they walk. 2 critical. I need you to coordinate with families, help manage the chaos. Can you do that? Yes. For the next 4 hours, he becomes her anchor. While she works miracles in trauma bay after trauma, he handles everything else, frantic relatives, paperwork, coordination with other departments. They move around each other with surprising synchronicity, anticipating needs, covering gaps. It's nearly midnight when the last patient is stable. Zara finds him in the family waiting area, slumped in a plastic chair. Her scrubs are stained with blood, her hair escaping its ponytail, and she's never looked more beautiful. Thank you, she says simply. You saved 5 lives tonight. We saved 5 lives. She sits beside him, close enough that their shoulders touch. I couldn't have done it without you. The admission hangs between them. In the harsh fluorescent light, with exhaustion etched in both their faces, something fundamental shifts. "Why? Did you call me?" he asks. "Because I trust you." No hesitation. "Because when crisis hit, you were the first person I thought of." "Because—" She turns to face him fully. "Because I'm falling for you, Adil, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise." The confession hits him like a physical blow. "Zara, I know. You're scared. I know you're hurt. I know she broke something in you that might never fully heal." Her voice is steady, sure. "But I also know that what we have is real and rare and worth fighting for." He stares at her. This incredible woman who sees straight through him, who called him when she needed someone she could count on, who just spent 4 hours saving strangers' lives. "I read Sarah's letter," he admits quietly. Zara goes still. "What? Did it say?" "That she fell out of love with me before I even deployed. That she stayed because she was afraid to hurt me, but couldn't handle being alone anymore." He laughs bitterly. "She apologized for not being brave enough to leave me honestly." "I'm sorry." The worst part? Part of me understands. I was gone, for months at a time, focused on my career, on serving. I thought love was enough, but maybe I wasn't present even when I was present. Zara takes his hand, laces their fingers together. "Love isn't enough if it's the only thing you bring to a relationship, but it's essential if you want to build something lasting." "What are we building, Zara?" She stands, pulling him up with her. "Come home with me. Not for tonight, for as long as you want to stay. Let me show you what it feels like to be chosen every day, not just loved in the abstract." The offer hangs between them. Not just physical intimacy, but emotional integration. The chance to try again with someone who sees his flaws and wants him anyway. What if I disappoint you too? What if you don't? She steps closer, her free hand coming up to rest against his chest. What if we're both brave enough to find out? In the empty hospital corridor, with the weight of the night behind them and possibility stretching ahead, Adil makes his choice. He kisses her. This time, there's no hesitation, no holding back. She responds immediately, arms coming around his neck, body pressing against his. The kiss is desperate, hungry, full of weeks of restrained want. "Your place," he breathes against her mouth. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure I want to try. With you. For real this time." She leads him through the hospital, past the night shift nurses who pretend not to notice their joined hands. In the parking garage, she presses him against her car, kisses him again with an urgency that makes his knees weak. "Follow me home," she says. "Zara." He catches her face in his hands. "I can't promise I won't have bad days. Can't promise I won't wake up some mornings and forget how to trust what we have." "I'm not asking for promises," she says. "I'm asking for presence, for effort, for the chance to prove that some things are worth the risk." The drive to her apartment feels like the longest 20 minutes of his life. Zara's apartment feels different in the soft glow of candlelight. She'd lit them while he waited in the hallway, suddenly nervous as a teenager. Now she stands by the window, having changed into a simple silk robe that catches the light like liquid gold. "Second thoughts?" she asks softly. "Third and fourth thoughts." He moves toward her slowly. "But not about you. About whether I deserve this. Whether I'm ready to be the man you need. What if you didn't have to be ready?" She turns to face him fully. "What if we just started where we are and figured it out together?" The simplicity of it, the permission to be imperfect, nearly breaks him. "I haven't been with anyone since Sarah," he admits. "Haven't wanted to be. And now? Now I can't think of anything else." His hands settle on her waist, thumbs tracing small circles over the silk. You've gotten under my skin, Dr. Malik. Good. She reaches up to unbutton his shirt, her movements deliberate and sure. That was always the plan. Her touch is fire against his skin. Each button reveals more of him, not just physically, but emotionally. The scars from overseas, the tension he carries in his shoulders, the way his breathing changes when she traces patterns across his chest. You're beautiful, she whispers, and he believes her because of how she looks at him, like he's something. Precious and strong and worthy of reverence. His shirt hits the floor. Her robe follows. In the candlelight, she's golden perfection, curves and shadows and warmth made manifest. I want to worship you, he breathes against her neck, hands skimming, over her skin like he's afraid she might disappear. Then worship me, she says simply. He lifts her easily, carries her to the bedroom where moonlight streams through gauze curtains, lays her down on soft sheets like she's made of spun glass. What follows is tender devastation, his mouth mapping every inch of her skin, her hands guiding him, teaching him her rhythms, her preferences, the soft sounds she makes when he discovers sensitive places, behind her ear, the curve where her neck meets her shoulder, the hollow of her hip. Tell me what you need, he whispers, and she shows him with touches and sighs and the arch of her. Back knot time becomes fluid. There's no rush, no desperate urgency, just the slow, exquisite building of pleasure and trust. When she cries out his name, when her nails dig into his shoulders, when she pulls him up to kiss him desperately, he feels like he's been reborn. Now, she breathes against his mouth. Please, Adil. Now. When they finally join, it's with a reverence that makes his chest tight. She's perfect around him, warm and soft and accepting. They move together like they've done this dance 1,000 times before, finding their rhythm through whispered directions and shared breaths. Look at me, she says when he closes his eyes, overwhelmed by sensation. Stay with me? He does, watches her face as she comes apart in his arms, her eyes wide and trusting and full of something that looks remarkably like love. The sight of her pleasure triggers his own, and he buries his face in her neck as waves of release crash through him. Afterwards, she curls against his chest, her hair spilled across his shoulder like dark silk. His arms tighten around her automatically, protectively. That was... He starts, then trails off. Perfect, she finishes. That was perfect. I was going to say worth waiting for. She lifts her head to look at him. Was it? Worth the risk? Ask me again in the morning, but he's smiling when he says it, and she laughs, rich and satisfied, and completely without self-consciousness. I'm asking now. He cups her face in his hands, thumbs brushing over her cheekbones. You've ruined me, Zara Malik. Completely and thoroughly ruined me for anyone else. Is that a yes? That's a please don't ever let me go. Never, she promises, and seals it with a kiss that tastes like forever. Later, as she sleeps in his arms, Adil stares at the ceiling and marvels at the turn his life has taken. 6 months. Ago, he was a married soldier counting days until deployment ended. Tonight, he's a free man holding a woman who chose him not despite his broken places, but including them. His phone buzzes on the nightstand. Sarah's name flashes on the screen. This time, he doesn't even hesitate. He declines the call, turns the phone face down, and tightens his arms around Zara. Some chapters need to close completely before new ones can begin. Love you, Zara murmurs, in her sleep, and the words hit him like sunrise after the longest night. Love you too, he whispers back, meaning it with every scarred, healing piece of his heart. Outside, dawn is breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of hope and possibility. They sleep until noon, tangled together like they never intend to let go.